I am Razio.
What's up, guys? Raziel here. Excuse the voice. I'm just recovering from a sickness, but this video needed to be made. So no funny or silly intro on this one because it's a serious business, which is, of course, Death Knights in World of Warcraft. It's interesting because this is how my channel started years ago with Legion and Blood DK Balance, a video that actually took off quite a bit and some Blizz devs saw it. Hopefully this happens again. What I want to talk about, though, is the fact that I think that Death Knights as a whole, the class as a whole, just needs complete redesign. We're talking ret levels of redesign, Shadow Priest. It's just it's gotten out of hand and it's aged poorly. And Death Knights just need to be redesigned. Now, I'm going to go into a little bit of detail. This video, excuse me, is primarily going to be geared towards Blood DK because that's what I main. I don't know if that's what I'm going to be maining going forward, but I've been playing Blood Death Knight and Death Knight as a class as a whole since 2008, and it's my favorite class, but the fundamental designs behind the specs is poor, and it's no longer functioning as it should, and I'll explain. So the core design philosophy, the class fantasy or whatever behind Unholy, it no longer works. It's broken. It's stupid, mainly because Unholy has now become pretty much just a scuffed BM hunter. It used to be about diseases and about, you know, plagues and hard-hitting two-handed attacks, and now it's just you're a scuffed-ass BM hunter. Frost has been all over the place with the removal of two-handed and dual-wield force to having both to none of them really being balanced with the boring-ass Breath of Sindragosa build into now how we have cleaving obliterate builds, and it's just really, really bad. Fundamentally, doesn't work. I think out of all three specs, Frost is the worst off in terms of its design philosophy and where it's at, and needs the biggest redesign by far. But Blood's philosophy, the self-sustaining tank, is absolutely done well. So I will give props where props are due. Credit is due there. Blood Death Knight, I mean, it has probably one of the highest tank skill ceilings in the game. I'm sure healers can back me up on this, where if you have a Blood DK between a good DK and a bad, and a good Blood DK and a bad Blood DK in, you know, Mythic Plus raids or whatever, very, very noticeable. Now, Death Knight overall is struggling right now. The rotation, for example, for Unholy is insanely complex, so many buttons, and the reward is very low. Like, classes that have rotations half the size can achieve the same numbers or greater with relative ease. Frost is always, since forever I can remember, is constantly just receiving these stupid Band-Aid blanket aura damage buffs as balance from Blizzard, instead of just a mechanical core redesign, which is what it needs, because it's always lagging behind, always bottom of the barrel, middle, somewhere like that, always lagging behind. And Blood right now, in terms of DPS, is about 8 to 10k lower than the next lowest tank, and about 20-25k below the highest tank. That's a huge disparity. That's really bad, especially since, like I said earlier, Blood has the highest skill ceiling. I'm gonna put this phone down in the game, in terms of staying alive, because it's very, you have to game your death strikes, you have to time things, you have to hit cooldowns correctly, and you have to really pay attention to what you're doing. So we're going to go into Blood here, because the biggest thing, while I say that Blood DK is serving its class fantasy and being the tank with the most survivability, it just isn't worth it right now because it has the lowest utility and the lowest DPS. So it's like, it's pretty bad, and I'd even argue now that Paladins have better self-sustain than even Blood Decay does at this point. Paladins by far the best tank in the game in every metric: utility, DPS, survivability, everything. Which again, this is not to bitch about Paladins. Paladin mains, you're lucky, enjoy it while it lasts. But this is again about Blood Death Knight. So we can see a lot of the core issues with Blood Death Knight right here in the talent tree, as you see on the screen. And I'll go over this. Now, the talent trees for Death Knights, but especially Blood, is abysmally low effort, very obviously shallow, very obviously very little effort or time or brain power was put into these trees. They're the most basic bitch of trees in the entire game. And I'll show you. I'll prove it. Especially for tanks. I don't think there's a single class, and I could be wrong here, but it's more cookie cutter in its spec than Death Knight is. Blood Death Knight. But there's almost no variation depending on the content that you're doing. Very little. So, let's just go into it. Let's dive into this shit show, and I'll show you what I mean. So, the top tree is fine. Let's go to the Death Knight tree itself first, and I'll show you. It's fine. The top row is fine. Second row, fine, though I think Cleaving Strikes needs to be changed because this is one of Frost's problems right here. I would change that. If they didn't do a complete mechanical rework of Frost, which they need to do, instead of making Obliterate crit cleave, I would make this your Death and your you know, Howling Wind or whatever it is, Remorseless Winter now replaces Death and Decay, and it makes your shit cleave. But I'm not going to get into Frost heavily on this. That's way too deep for one video. Blinding Sleet, good. It's fine where it's at. Cold Thirst, almost no one takes this. It's kind of useless. I mean, it's not completely useless, but there's very little need for it. Unless you're on some niche fight where there's tons of interrupts and you need as many interrupts to come up as fast as possible, no one's taking this. Permafrost, everyone takes this of all specs. Improved Death Strike, there's a couple niche builds where Frost doesn't take this. I think it's either Frost or Unholy for Mythic Plus, because it's not needed. But it's fine. Increase on Magic Manti Zone, fine. March of Darkness. This is shit. Absolute shit. No one takes it. Why? Because it's outside of some niche PvP scenarios, it's just not good. You know what? To make this even easier, I'm not going to go through every talent. I'm just going to point the ones that need to go away. March of Darkness needs to go away. Cold Thirst needs to go away. Sacrificial Pack needs to go away. It's total trash. Control Undead, this has to be the most useless talent, not just for Death Knights, in the entire game. How niche of an... If they're going to keep this dumb ability in the game, just give it to us baseline. Control Undead is so niche. There's like 1 or 2 dungeons in the game that you can use it, and Unholy's never going to use it because it replaces your Ghoul. Frost and Blood might use it if, you know, in a niche situation, but it's got the same level of usefulness as like Corpse Explosion used to have. Just get rid of it. Give it to its baseline. There's no reason this stupid ability needs to be is worth a talent point. This shit isn't worth even 1/10 of a talent point. It's so useless. Okay? Suppression, this needs to go away. No one has ever picked this or Blood Scent. 3% leech? Really? 3%? When... Where is it? Yeah. Voracious gives you 12% for 8 seconds. A passive 3%. No one takes this. It's trash. Get it off the table. Suppression. 3% reduced area effect. No one takes... This is so dumb. Why is this here? Why does this exist? You can tell, again, low effort, no thought process put into it. They just shove shit in there to fill up space. Okay. Solving our problem of utility. Death Knights provide virtually no utility to raids outside of Anti-Magic Zone. And not every build uses Anti-Magic Zone. What's my solution? Anti-magic zone should be baseline for all specs. And because anti-magic zone effectiveness is reliant on your versatility stat, and guess what? Versatility is the lowest stat right now in the game for all three DK specs. It should just be baseline, and assimilation should be baked into it. Make it do 30% absorb instead of 20. It's fine. Remove the runic power that it gives back to you when you trigger and absorb. We don't need the runic power from that. That's fine. Just take the 10% from assimilation, put it into the base of anti-magic zone, give it to every spec. Easy. Now every DK has utility regardless of what their build is. And then we'll add more utility in a minute. I'll show you. Okay, Might of Thrashing, 2%, whatever. Clenching Grasp. This is also a talent that is never, ever, ever chosen. At all. It's useless. Absolutely useless. Get it out. Death Pact. Very rarely used and usually only in PvP situations. Should be a PvP talent. Not, if anything, it should be a PvP talent, not an ability here. It's trash. This is taken in PvP quite a bit. Again, something that could be straight up moved to a PvP talent. Proliferating Chill could be a PvP talent just fine. No one would miss it from the talent tree because it's only used in PvP. Asphyxiate, that's fine where it is. Acclamation, the improved Icebound Fortitude. This could have some use in very niche situations where you need to survive, but I think it could be baked into the blood tree, and I'll go over there a bit later and I'll tell you. So right now, let's assume it's not on this tree anymore. Grip of the Dead, this is fine. It's used quite a bit in Mythic Plus. It's a good talent, but Death's Reach, again, useless. No one takes this. It's not worth anything. No one wants this. And this is where I'm going to spawn into something that'll blow your mind and some of you may not have noticed. So on the new talent trees, there are multi-choice nodes like this, right? Where you pick between two different abilities at one point. You can't take both. Death Knight on the Death Knight tree has one choice, and it's not even a choice because it's Grip of the Dead. Right? On the blood side of the tree, we have one here, and I'll get into these shit talents in a minute. One here, two. There are two choice nodes on the Blood Death Knight tree. Just for some perspective. Prot Warrior has 6 on this side, 7 on this side. Prot Paladin, 5 on this side, 8 on this side. Vengeance Demon Hunter, 6 on this side, 4 on this side. Brewmaster Monk, 4 on this side, 9 on this side. Guardian Druid, 4 and 4. Blood DK, 1 and 2. And as you'll see, they're not even choices on Blood DKs. And then you talk about capstone abilities, right? Blood Death Knight has 4. 2 of which are completely useless. We have 4. Prot Warrior has 7. Prot Paladin has 8. Vengeance Demon Hunter has 5. I'm sorry, Prot Warrior has 5, not 7. My bad. Prot Warrior has 5. Prot Paladin has 5. Vengeance Demon Hunter has 5. Brewmaster Monk only has 3, so they have 1 less than we do. Guardian Druid has 5. Anyway. Again, see, low effort. No real development time was put into Blood DK at all. Let's keep moving on. Wraithwalk. Now, Wraithwalk is used in some scenarios. Here's what I would change about Wraithwalk. Since we're getting rid of March of Darkness, put Wraithwalk up there. And you know what? If you want to make it add more utility, Wraithwalk, instead of just being another movement ability, why don't you make it like the Rogue Shroud? Shrouds your raid. Puts everybody in the Shadow Realm. Right? The Shadowlands for a minute, and you stealth. Bam, more utility, instantly. Okay? You'd even put it up here. Replace that piece of shit. It's going to be baseline. Okay? Blood Draw, it's fine, it's okay. It is taken by Unholy in quite a few builds, so whatever. Okay. Let's go to the other biggest problem childs on our base here. Soul Reaper. Soul Reaper is not worth pressing for any spec. Frost especially, but even if you're a purely single target fight, its damage just doesn't justify. And the fact that it doesn't scale very well, and it's an execute that takes 5 seconds to detonate. Soul Reaper either needs to be removed or completely reworked in a different way. How exactly? I'm not sure. I've been brainstorming on that, but whatever. Unholy Bond. People only take this because there's nothing better to take. Or if they're dumb and they're getting baited into Soul Reaper. Unholy Bond is stupid because it increases your rune's effectiveness by 20% if you have 2 points in it. Most people only put 1. Especially Blood Death Knights if they use it at all, which is a very minuscule percentage amount of increase on whatever rune forge you use. But here's the problem. The rune forges, nobody uses them other than Fallen Crusader. That's it. I think there's a build that uses Hysteria or Sanguination, can't remember which. I think it's one of the dual wield Frost builds. But no one else uses that shit. Just put a better talent there and flat out buff Fallen Crusader by 20. Or make more interesting rune forges, Blizzard. And now I know that I pointed out that everyone uses Fallen Crusader and has since the dawn of time. And I know Blizzard, okay, Blizzard, before you do anything, stop. People aren't picking Fallen Crusader because it's amazing. They're picking it because all the other ones suck. Now I know your inclination and your knee-jerk reaction is going to be, well, let's force everyone to pick other runes by nerfing Fallen Crusader. Don't do that. Just use your fucking brains and let's do something logical with rune forges if none of the other ones are being used. Anyway, now on to the most boring ass tree on the planet. This build right here that you see is the build every single raider is running all the time. It never changes, ever. Okay? There's no reason to. Mythic Plus, it changes a little bit, right? Like you'll move, Mythic Plus will go into Heartbreaker instead of Foul Bulwark, and then go this direction. Right? That's the only difference. These two change, and this loses a point. And it goes through. What can we do about this? First of all, the Capstone Umbilicus Eternus is absolutely dog shit. It's useless, it's crap, it's terrible. No one takes it. It's not interesting. Remove it from the game. Let it go. What can you replace it with? Very easy. You guys remember in Legion the ability Blood Mirror? 20% increase damage taken to you for like, I think it was like 5 or 8 seconds, reflected back at the target. It's only a single target use, you can't AoE it. That's a DPS increase, which Blood DKs need, and a defensive bonus that's better than this. And worthy of a capstone. Put Blood Mirror there. Improve Vampiric Blood, this needs to not exist. No one uses it because an extra 10% after you spend 2 points and an extra 4 seconds on Vampiric Blood, who cares? Take Red Thirst, put it there. Replace Improve Vampiric Blood with Red Thirst. Then you might see some talent points going this direction. Rune Tap, in my opinion, should be baseline. There's no reason it should be a talent. It's never needed enough to be a point in a talent. You know, unless you're severely under-gearing content and you need an extra DR or you just suck. But I think Rune Tap should be baseline. What can you replace it with? Not sure yet. Blood Tap, I mean, it was a really useful ability for a long time, but it's just not taken very much now. Now, I know you might say, hey, oh, but this is the other thing, Blood Feast, yeah, this is terrible. No one's ever taken it. This is it's stupid. Blood Feast is stupid. I mean, the idea behind it was a decent idea, but how much better would this be if instead of saying anti-magic shell heals you for 100% of the damage it absorbs, what if it said, while anti-magic shell is active, 50% of physical damage is counted as magic damage, something, right? Getting more heals on yourself, especially when you're getting hit, you're using a cooldown like AMS, which prevents magic damage altogether. You're taking less damage during AMS anyway. The heal is pretty much worthless. Now, I know you might say, hey, Raz, look back here. Since you removed a bunch of these talents, what can we replace them with? Easy. Gorfine's Grasp. Now, Gorfine's Grasp has been a staple of the Blood Death Knight forever. Really cool ability, big grip. But you know what? Abomination Limb is 10 times better in every way. Because it does damage, it constantly pulls things in, and it gives you Bone Shield charges. It's just better in every way, so there's no reason to take Gorfine's Grasp, ever. So what's the solution? Two possible solutions. One, move it over here. Make it so every DK can take Gorfine's Grasp. And look, bam, just like that, we have more utility for all DK specs. Wow. And if Blizzard, if you're absolutely opposed to giving Gorfine's Grasp to all DKs, make it baseline for blood. Shouldn't be a talent. And Tightening Grasp, just who cares? Get rid of it. I'm fine with Gorfine's Grasp being a 2-minute cooldown. Tightening Grasp is not worth a point. It's just bad. No one's ever going to take this. Okay? Especially since now it might be worth it if it said enemies hit by Gorfine's Grasp take 5% increased damage from your raid, but it takes 5% increased damage just from you. Crash. So yeah, either make Gorfine's Grasp baseline or give it to all DKs over here, since we're giving anti-magic shell to everyone baseline. These were some clever new talents. Perseverance of the Even Blade. Why is this never taken? 4% versatility when Crimson Scourge is consumed, up to 8% with 2 points. Versatility is our weakest stat now. You know what would be better and might make it worth taking? Make it 1 point instead of 2, and make it say when Crimson Scourge is consumed, you gain 8% of your highest stat. Then it's always going to be universal no matter what stat weights change over expansions. Now, let's talk about this turd. These two abilities, Consumption and Blood Drinker, absolutely awful. No one takes them. Consumption has been terrible since its inception. The only reason people use it in Legion was because it was free. The free button off GCD press. It was just free, so people used it. And it was stronger in Legion too. But this is absolute shit. No one will ever take it. Blizzard, just give up on Consumption. Or completely redesign it and turn it into another Execute or a Capstone. Like it's god-awful, pointless ability. Blood Drinker has had its moments where it was really strong in Legion, and I think there was a point in BFA it was good. But it's the amount it heals for is terrible. In my opinion, the amount of damage it does is terrible. These two should be removed from the game. Put something else there. What happened to Rune Strike? Put Rune Strike in there as an option where you parry, you know, it's a big strong ass hit if you get a parry that you can reciprocate, like how Overpower works with dodge, or used to work with dodge, I should say. Something needs to change here. No one's taking these ever because they're useless trash. They're garbage. They're lower than trap talents. They're just bad in every conceivable, imaginable way. Okay, so let's say we moved Red Thirst up there to replace Improved Vampiric Blood. What could we put here? Acclamation, since it's a very defensive focused ability. But put it there and call it, instead of calling it Acclamation, call it like Blood Infused Armor or Bloody Fortification or something, where instead of just giving you a 1 minute off the CD of Icebound Fortitude, what if it's like, I don't know, this, I'm just throwing out numbers, every 100k your blood shields absorb damage takes a second off of Icebound Fortitude's cooldown. What about that? Then people might take that. I mean, people are all taking Purgatory, not because it's insanely good. It is good, but because there's nothing better. There's nothing else to pick. In the past, Purgatory was only taken on prog and, you know, content you were very likely to die. You undergeared it. Shit like that. Now people just take it because, well, what else am I going to take? So you might see people starting to go down here if you add this over there, but with that caveat. Okay, what do we put here? We told you, Blood Mirror. Blood Mirror is there. Wow, good capstone. Bloodshot is good, but the problem is our blood shields still go away too fast for it to be worth it. Dealing 25% increased physical damage is great, but when you can only do it for a half a second, every once in a while, it's not worth shit. What would I change about this? Keep 25% damage the same, but instead of while Blood Shield is active, you deal 25% increased physical damage, it should say, when you trigger a Blood Shield, you deal 25% increased physical damage for 4 seconds. And if you're spamming like Death Strike and getting Blood Shields, it doesn't add more time on the timer, it just resets the timer. It doesn't stack, it just adds more time to the timer. Easy fix. Now let's get into Bone Storm. This ability, because of its cap, its damage cap, and its runic cost, is just atrocious. I mean, its survivability mechanic is great, but it's just not worth it. No one's taking this. It's not worth like the amount of death strikes it would cost you to just cast a full runic powers Bone Storm. What would I do? Take Bone Storm completely out of the game. It had a good run, Blizzard. Just take it out. It's shit. What do you replace it with? Very easy. This. Death Chain. But make it called Bone Chain or something. Right? Because this is the bone side or whatever. But put Death Chain there. It doesn't need to be a PvP ability. Because let's be real. Blood DKs don't PvP because they're shit at that too. So change it from change 3 enemies together. Do it a maximum of 5. Okay? Bam. That would be a ball-in capstone for Mythic Plus and for even a lot of raid scenarios, right? And if you're worried about, oh, it'll increase too much damage on single target bosses, well then just make it exactly as it is, where the caveat says you can't even cast a chain on someone unless it's multiple targets. Right? Then on single target boss fights, DKs won't take it. And they won't be increasing the raised damage by 20%. But that's also more utility. It's a buff. Damage buff. People will want to bring Blood DKs to Mythic Plus. People will want to bring us to different situations, right? Overall, though, you guys see my point. This is so boring. The talent trees for Blood and for DK overall are so boring, and I know what Blizzard's probably going to do. They're just going to keep adding aura blanket buffs to abilities, but Blizzard, these Blood DK's talent tree is pathetic, and it just needs to be redesigned and all the worthless shit taken out, and we need to have actual choice. There's no choice here at all. Keep Blood DK's identity of the most survivable, highest skill ceiling, having to game death strikes. I like all that. That's fine. The self-healing, that's all fine. But give us some interesting options here. And don't just blanket aura buff us if our DPS is low. Add it into the talent tree to make unique and fun abilities that increase our damage, not just, oh, okay, Blood Boil hits for 6% more, Death Strike hits for 2% more, whatever the stupid shit you're going to do. But those are my suggestions for Blood DK. Guys, if you enjoyed this, if you thought this was good, if you'd like me to do my videos on Frost and Unholy, I can do that as well. I mean, those two specs are the hugest shit shows ever right now, but yeah, just let me know, and I'll give you my thoughts on that as well. But as always, my friends, keep it real.